Okay, for me, I built my portfolio during the course because I had no idea what the job preparation course has to offer me. So, but to my surprise, in the job preparation course, there's 4 sections about building a portfolio website.
Okay.
If you guys not interested in taking the course, then building a portfolio during the UX Immersion course is better because after that you can directly find a job. But if you have time for the job preparation course, then go for it because it helps you with your, resume, your portfolio, your writing, and everything.
Maybe.
It helps you sell yourself as a designer.
Yeah. And maybe another way to think about it is to start working on your portfolio during the course. And since we're constantly refining the work, we could keep working on it in the job preparation part of the course.
Yeah. And during my job preparation course, I do get a lot of feedback from my tutor about how I should rephrase my about page, my about me page, and also some of the layout and everything. So it is also very valuable feedback.
Okay. Okay.
Let's get started. This is my website. UX, Unazin is just a brand that I built for myself because my name is just too hard to come up with a logo. So just bear with it. Okay, break it to 4 different sections. The first section you can see here is my work. Right now you can see is the Concord app that I did for UX Immersion course, which is already completed. The second part is the UI app that I'm working on, which is the fitness app. So once you completed the UX course and take the UI, this will be one of the projects that you got to work on. Okay. Then the third section is about page. So this is a short description myself. This one you got to work on during the job preparation course. They will help you write your pitch. Yeah. Then lastly is contact. So that's it about the structure of the website. Very simple, straightforward. So let's go to my case study. Before going into a case study, I created this page. It's like a portfolio page, or Laurence called it a advertising page, where I show people the final product, brief background of how it should be, the concept behind, some finished screen, key features, but also the style guide that I have created, and the design prototype. This is to attract and entice people to want to view the case study, because sometimes case study has too many words and it's kind of put people back. So you need to have some interesting visual to get their attention and make them want to read more. So here you can click on case study. And yeah, this is a case study part. I start with design approach, break down into 5 steps so people will know that which step they are on. First will be background. I tell them the problem statement, ideas, my competitor analysis. This is a shorter summarize, a quick summary that I made for them to understand the competitor analysis process, because it's actually quite a complicated one. If you make a quick one, it will be easier for people to, take a quick glance and understand what we were trying to do. Then our target user and solution. At the end of each section, I try to end it with a, like beautiful visual image, just to award them for reading so many texts. Okay, then user research, affinity mapping. Sometimes I wanted to break the layout of the whole case study because there's too many words. So sometimes I break them by using full width images or elements, just to change the look of it to make the layout more interesting. Then user personas. I only show one persona here because if they want to know more about our research, our project, they can call us for an interview, and that is where you're gonna show them everything, every single thing that you did. So just show them a little bit and make them curious and wanted to talk to you in person. Yeah, here's another one that I break the layout. Then we have the iteration design process. We have information architecture, which is the final site map. The wireframe that the prototype that I use for testing. My method test grid with in a gallery view when people need to be able to read the text. I will show it this way. Then design iteration is very important part because people need to know what this is like, what UX is for. So you need to show them the problems clearly, your research, and what you have done to change it, to make it better. So this is my prototype 1, before and after prototype 2. So I have like 5 issues here. And we go to visual details. This is how it evolves visually from the very first sketch to the final sketch. I mean the final design and some reasoning behind it. So view screen and user documentation. The last one is the GIF image. I mean, yeah, the GIF for the important features of my application. And that's it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, so first of all, let me say it looks great. I mean, this website for an entry-level UX designer or even a junior designer looks great. And the purpose of our portfolio is to help us tell our story initially as we're looking to get into the marketplace and get our first job. But then ultimately, you're going to keep a portfolio running throughout your career, and this portfolio will begin to grow. And it's not like you have to use the same portfolio in 10 years or even 5 years. You'll redevelop the portfolio over time. So as you think about your portfolio, think about what its actual purpose is. And initially, our portfolios are designed just to get us into the marketplace and answer the questions that an HR person would have to validate you or be used as a backdrop as you present yourself to the UX team or whoever is interviewing you for the job. You've done a really great job at presenting yourself, Kim. And I think and I want everybody to comment. I want everyone to comment, but overarching, I think what's very interesting about your approach is the fact that you had the marketing page, as I referred to it, for your product, which made the product look very real. It looked like a finished product. And then you had this click in here to go deeper, where you were able to fill in all of the details of the process that you used to prove your ability to perform design thinking processes. So it's the perfect sort of setup to answer all the questions that a prospective employer would have as they're looking at you to try and understand whether you can do for them what they need you to do, which is ultimately what you're doing in a job interview, particularly at an entry level. You just want to prove to that employer, that prospective employer, that you can do for them what they need you to do. So I just think the way you broke it down to have sort of the product page that made it look very real and finished, and then the process page, I think we should all take note of that because it's a really nice way to not only extend your work and make it look like there's more there than there really is, but to make one part that's easy to look at, easy to understand, finished product, and another part that's like detail oriented. Here's my process.
Can I ask a few questions?
Go.
So I have a few questions that I wanted to ask you, Kim. First, I wanted to say extremely good job on your portfolio. I got a lot of ideas because I created my own website as well, and I had to take a lot of ideas from you as well. So, extremely good job on your portfolio. I just wanted to ask, how did you create your logo on your portfolio?
Hey,
You know, it says that,
before you answer, is that Castro behind you?
Is a what?
That picture above your head, is that Fidel Castro?
Yes, yes.
Where are you?
He is. In a
Okay.
cafe.
What?
In a cafe.
Oh, okay. Fidel, cool. Okay.
Okay, back to Bambang.
yeah. So I
Yes,
wanted
regarding my logo, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, so the first question that I had wanted to ask was, how did you create that logo? You know, on the you said I think it was Conquer or something like that. The what tool did you use to create that logo?
I use Sketch.
Sketch. Interesting. So, the second question that I wanted to ask, you see the screen images that you had, like they're like I think they were GIFs or something that of the it was like people go
Animated.
scrolling through the apps or something like that. I'm
Yeah,
not
this
sure what it
called,
was.
okay. The term for it is animation. So you
Yeah.
can Google prototype animation. So there's a few apps that offer you to do that directly. The one that I use is Principle. It let you record .mov file or .gif file. It didn't
Oh,
come
okay.
with the iPhone Showcase. So the iPhone looks that one called Showcase. So you can that keyword for you to Google. So that Showcase you have to use Photoshop to put in the Showcase on top of the animation, the GIF file, then export it as a GIF file. Yeah. So that's the whole process.
That's really interesting because I did mess around with the Photoshop and then use those phone screens, but I didn't know how you could put GIFs onto them as well. So that's pretty cool. Last question that I wanted to ask is: have you started applying for jobs?
I
And
got okay.
yeah,
Yes.
so if you started applying for jobs, did they talk about? Did you have to go through your portfolio and like what stuff you had to talk about, for example?
Okay, I was very lucky because I had 3 job offers at the moment, all thanks to this portfolio. I didn't prepare for it. 2 weeks ago I went to one of my friends not creative agency. She was working there as a UI designer. So I was talking to her and her boss approached me. When her boss knew that I'm doing UX design, she was asking me like, hey, do you have a portfolio to show me? So I just tell her, okay, how about go to my website? Then she take a look at my website and then see the portfolio for maybe 10 minutes. Then she asked me to come back for an interview and she offered me a job. So that one
Also,
out of the 3 jobs that I got. Yeah.
in
So
that job
it's
interview,
very handy, very, very handy.
yeah, in the job interview, did you have to talk about your portfolio, or was it something that they already looked at it?
Okay, what I did for my interview is actually I had a PowerPoint slideshow. You know the one that we did weekly, not weekly, for every achievement we have for UX Immersion.
Yeah,
So the last one we have like a compile of everything, right? I
yeah,
printed that one out on a A3 file so people can see the detail very clearly. And when I meet her, I go through with her that case study, the printout. I didn't go through with her anything on my portfolio. That is just to showcase. Yeah. That's my actual work, the breakdown, everything, my sketching, my affinity mapping, everything is stored inside that printout. Yeah. So what I did was go through with her, paper. Yeah, on paper.
Thank you. That's really interesting. Didn't
Yeah.
think of it like that, but thank you.
So,
That's awesome.
Kim, in the interview when
Yep.
you presented your PowerPoint slideshow, how much time did you spend in the interview talking about yourself, and how much did you spend with them talking to you? Just try and talk about the interview itself. Were you nervous? How did it go? What was it like?
Okay, I didn't really talk about myself because we did talk about myself before, before she asked me for the interview, we already get to know each other. So the interview started with, just a few breaking the ice sentences like hello, hi, everything. Then we jumped directly onto my work for the UX Immersion. She did ask a few questions about career Foundry. She asked a few questions about career Foundry, so just telling her like how good it is and
Sorry, I can't hear.
Yeah, Kim, you're breaking up. What are you saying?
Really interested in the
Sorry, Kim, could you repeat it? I can't really hear you. Yeah.
Okay, let me try to. Can I just kill my camera? I think is my connection is not really good.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay. She's really interested in the research part, creating a user personas and the job story, user flows, and sitemap. And the last one, of course, is what we can do. She's how do I say? I think right now in the market, I mean in my area, there's not a lot of UX designers that they're able to pull out the whole UX process. They mostly only focus on UI, probably starting from user flow and wireframing, and come up with the finished UI. So when she see that I'd be able to pull up from nothing to the final design, is what makes her really surprised and interested in. So she's really into the process. I think in our interview we should really focus on how we created nothing. I mean, how we created something out of nothing. That is really important in UX design. That's what I get from the interview, I think. Yeah.
That's interesting. Just a question to follow up on that. You said you had 3 offers. Were the UX interviews on them? Were they pretty much the same thing? Were they following the same, were they asking you the same questions or?
No, I had 3 interviews. 2, one with the boss, one with the HR. HR over asked typical questions. One with a UX designer. Do you know the Interaction Design Foundation? .org. Okay, so probably Laurence should know that one, right?
Stuff about the animations that she was doing, and maybe pull back and let's ask the question: why do we think her website is so successful? Can we just talk about that? Like, why does her website work, and why is she getting job offers? Let's talk about that.
I think the biggest thing. Yeah. No, definitely, yeah. Visually.
Okay, I heard the word visually.
Okay. Hi, Laurence. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead. What's your comment?
Well, actually, my question is slightly different, actually, because I can't hear very clear. That's why I go into Kim website to have a quick look, right, from beginning, especially on the case study itself. Actually, I text Susanne as well. And my question is basically, I go through her first step, the background, until the second step, understand the user, right? She does mention about basically to create a games to attract the traveler, maybe to her country. Yeah. Then my point is, do we need to be a very specific? What sort of a game that will attract the users to her
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I didn't hear the end of your question. I heard you say what sort of a game would attract the user, and then it stopped.
Well, my question is basically I do not know anything about scavenger hunts. Okay.
Hmm.
And then my point is basically I seen that the idea is for traveler who come to a new place, then maybe create a games for the travelers. That's
Hmm.
my understanding.
Hmm. Well, so
Do we need to very specific what sort of a game will attract the traveler or user to play these apps?
well, Lee, is this the project you're going to choose? Is a scavenger
No,
hunt?
no, no, no. It's just no. It's just my queries because I see the case study. I just curious.
I see. Okay, so a scavenger hunt, it can take on many different forms. So it'd be real easy for you
Okay,
just Google scavenger hunt, and it'll tell you what that is.
okay,
A scavenger hunt isn't necessarily about attracting people to your country. It's
okay.
used
Fair
in
enough.
many different ways. Okay,
Okay,
so
then my question is
yeah.
to I think Kim does allow people to create a games for the hunts. Does she need to be very specific on which game?
Boy, I don't know. You'd have to ask her because I'm not familiar
All
with
right, okay.
the
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's just a curious anyway. Yeah,
right.
because I thought normally we try to be a focus in, if let's say we create a games, what sort of a games?
Well, what's interesting, Lee, I think for me, what's interesting about what you're saying is all of us as CF UX students, so not including
Yep,
the UI student attending
yep,
here
yep,
right
yep.
now, but all of us as CF UX students are working off one of four different project
Project.
briefs. Okay,
That's right.
but what's interesting about it is, and you guys don't see this as I do, as much as I do, which is why I like our interaction together. But what I see is how every student has a different take on the different briefs. So everybody who does a
Okay.
scavenger hunt doesn't do the same product, the same concept, the same designs.
Yeah, I just wonder anyway.
Everybody
Yeah.
who does a fitness app doesn't end up with the same idea. So what that's really telling us is if you give two UX designers the same brief, they're going to come up with a
Yep.
different solution. So why is that?
All right.
Why is that two UX designers working off the same creative brief come up with different solutions?
Oh, actually, I just seen basically what I see is what is it called? Her competitor analysis basically is come out maybe two company come out with two different game styles. My point is, as a UX designer, do we need to be very specific on what sort of a game style that we will create for our apps? That's all.
Well, I mean, as a UX designer, you have to be very specific about all of the details of all of the aspects of what you're creating,
Yeah.
whether it's a scavenger game or a fitness app. It really, designing in UX is about creating something from nothing, and that involves broad thinking as well as very specific details. In
All
fact,
right. Okay.
I've been starting to send around, and I'll say this to the whole group all at once here. Um, take a look at the idea of design is in the details. If you Google that phrase,
Okay.
design is in the details, go ahead and do that right now, Lee. Google the phrase design is in the details, and you're going to see very interesting papers written about the importance of the detail and the effectiveness of your design. You're going to see this going back to Charles and Ray Eames, some incredible designers who were very, very specific about details in their design.
Is it
But it's
is it
very,
Paul Burnett?
yeah, Paul Burnett does a great TED talk on it, but it's not, nobody owns
All
the
right. Okay.
phrase. It's the concept of
Yeah.
really thinking about the details of what you're doing, because I think it answers the question you're asking. Do you need to be specific?
All right.
Yes, design is actually saying everything you do has a reason that you can defend.
Yeah.
It has a purpose. So are you getting very specific? You're absolutely getting very specific. In the case of UX design, you're getting right down to what you're naming the button, where that button is positioned, and what color it is, and what size it is, and et cetera, et cetera. Yes, there's an immense amount of detail that you're working with, but you're working with it from a broad position to a fine detailed position. That's the arc of your decisions that you're making, and it's all connected, right? The stuff you learn in your research is connected to the decisions you make in your execution.
Okay, understood. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Laurence, I just want to ask a question on Kim's portfolio. So I've seen a lot of other portfolios, right? That in their portfolios is pretty brief, whereas Kim's one is pretty detailed. What effect does it have in having a really detailed portfolio and a really brief one? Because I've seen some portfolios where it just talks about what what design process they use, and they talked about it pretty briefly. Whereas I'm looking at Kim's one right now, it's pretty detailed. So as a recruiter, what would you say about having a brief portfolio compared to a really detailed one?
Well, that's a good question, and I want to answer that. First of all, a lot of the answers that I give you guys, which I know you probably don't like, includes the concept of it depends. But I think there is a good answer to what you're asking, and that is the interactive structure. So a website that you were to build as a portfolio, and this goes for whether it's a UX portfolio or a UI design portfolio, any sort of portfolio, it allows you to reveal different layers of detail. So what Kim has done successfully, one approach, and this isn't the only way to do it, but one thing she did successfully is she has a very high level, here's my product layer, and it's pretty easy to read, it's pretty light. But then when you drill into the case study for that same product, there's a lot of detail. So I think the best answer to the way you should think about this is create an interactive experience that allows your user to decide how much detail they want to absorb, right? Why should you decide whether the person wants to read a paragraph or a page or a sentence? Why not allow both of those to occur, but their choice? So in other words, interactive experiences are a lot about the user making self-choices. I want to read more. Click, I am reading more. I want to read less. Click, I am reading less. You have the option as a designer to create that experience in that way. You don't need to decide, should I put in a bunch of detail or not? You could think about it differently, which is I will allow both to occur based on what that user wants. So having said that, in the real world, an HR person who's going to be your first hurdle in an interview is HR. HR people go through and look at candidates and they decide whether they're valid or relevant for the job or not. And they do that, 8 hours a day, and they look at how many hundreds of people we don't know. But they're going to probably look at a very broad stroke in your portfolio and say, yeah, this person looks good. And then they're going to pass it on to a UX designer who might look closer. So I think the real answer is to, and Kim's back with us, is to create an experience where you could do both.
I read an article last night actually on the IDF, the Interaction Design Foundation. I think they talk about the inverted pyramid system on how do we present on our website on the a very long content. Basically, I agree with Laurence. Actually, they come up with a very high level topic, and then they will go into the detail. Actually, it's quite a good article. Actually,
can you share that? That's a really. Is everybody familiar with that concept of the inverted triangle? So what is
it just happened actually last night. I see it.
If you can find that, clip it into the group chat on Skype, okay? So imagine an inverted triangle. It's basically the point is at the bottom and the wide spot is at the top. And what that represents is you're starting with broad generalizations and you're drilling down into detail. So that's just a general concept that's really relevant to the way that we can present information. Allowing your audience to make choices, essentially self-sort. Hey, let's get Kim back in the loop here.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. That's pretty sweet.
Am I still noisy now?
Very interesting.
Oh, I'm okay.
Oh, I
No,
see.
that's actually pretty good.
You just walked around and sat down in the same place and okay, got it.
No, I tried like 5 cafe shops.
Okay, this is good. So, did Kim's portfolio presentation? We don't need to repeat that, but maybe we just move into the questions and answer section of what we were trying to do. Is that good with you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bambang was asking me about the the interview part. So I actually had 3 interviews, one with a HR, one with a creative agency boss, and one with Interactive Design Foundation's guy. He was the represent of UX Interactive Design Foundation for Asia, and he located in Vietnam. So I just happened to be interviewed by him. So it was the experience was very different from all of them. The bosses care about the presentation, the final products, how can I sell the ideas. The HR, she just asked about everything. Every single thing in my, yes?
1 second, I just want to, just to understand what you're talking about. You said you had 3 interviews for the same position? You were being interviewed for a job position?
No, for 3 different jobs.
3 different jobs. So you had one interview
3
with
different companies.
3 different companies. So one interview with one company was with just an HR person.
Yes.
And another interview with another company was
with the boss of the company. It's a creative agency.
Okay. And then the third interview was with
the Interactive Design Foundation guy. He's the representative of Interactive Design Foundation in Asia, and he opened a company in Vietnam. So I happened to get in contact with him, and he interviewed me through Skype.
That's awesome.
How did you get in touch with these people? Did they find you, or did you find them?
My friend just happened to share my website around. Yeah. So I had, because my design background is interior design, and I have a lot of friends in UI design. And some of them, after 6 or 7 year experience, they are kind of at the top of the UI design market in Vietnam. So they get a lot of valuable contact.
Okay.
Yeah, so they helped me to share around.
Okay, so these interviews, were they all on Skype, or were any of them in person?
They were completely different. So the boss, she was very goal-orientated. She cared about how I did a presentation. She cared about how visually appeal the presentation is, the final products. Yeah, and how I pitch it to her.
How big was that company?
The creative agency has about 30 people, 30 staff.
Are you saying 30? 30?
Yeah, 30.
Okay.
30.
Yeah.
While the creative guy, the IDF guy, he's a representative of IDF, so he talked a lot about theories. He asked me a lot about theories, like, do I know these theories, that theories? He wants to know what am I good at in UX, and basically a lot of theories and exchange knowledge. Yeah, and I get to learn a lot during that interview with him. While the HR, she just go through everything in my portfolio.
Really?
Yeah, she just like asking like, so what is this? Can you tell me about that? Can you tell me about this? Yeah.
Yeah. So how did these interviews end up then? The HR, how did that end up?
Okay.
Did they offer you a job?
I got a job offer from the boss and the interactive line. So I turned down the offer from, I didn't turn down, but I just tell them that I'm more interested in working with the other 2. Yeah, so, now I'm kind of into working with the creative agency because the IDF guy, he didn't want a remote position. He wanted me to relocate to his city, which I'm unable to. So he need a remote position he gonna offer me, but for now, not yet.
Okay. So are you going to take the job with the design agency?
She's like asking me every day about it, but I'm still negotiating about salary because we all need to survive and make a living.
So can I
I
ask?
wanted to ask you about
Can I ask how
that.
much she's offering?
She's okay because it's in Vietnam, so the market is very much different from your side.
Yeah.
But she offered me slightly higher than a junior UI designer. But because I have 6 year experience in interior design and I can do pitch and sale, and I can persuade customer. So based on that, I'm trying to negotiate a mid-level UX designer salary.
Okay. So
Yeah,
Bambang, give me one more second, and then you can take over. So how were you able to communicate your 6 years of experience? Because you didn't put it into your portfolio. So did that just come up in conversation? And would you consider including that experience right in your portfolio now?
Okay, right. You gave me a very interesting part the other day when you first looked at my portfolio. You were asking me, "Hey, where can I see your, interior design come in this portfolio?" And the only part is where I wrote about myself, which not a lot of people want to read it unless they wanted to hire me or want to know more about me.
Right.
Yeah. Honestly, I really like it, but I don't know how.
You don't know how to incorporate
Yeah.
that part of your history, that part of your story into the existing
Yeah,
website?
I have not looked into it yet.
Okay.
I have not looked into it yet. Yeah.
Okay.
But I will do it because it is very valuable. Like you have another skill set that you have mastered, 6 years. Probably you can master it. So if you bring it into your UX study, it is very valuable. So I think we shouldn't, leave it aside.
Right. I would agree. I would agree that our portfolios are telling the story of our experience, which should include, a wide-ranging, potentially as long as it's relevant, a wide-ranging set of skills. And your interior design is relevant to your overall professional design career. Okay, sorry, I don't mean to dominate the questions. Everybody else.
Oh, yeah, so I just wanted to ask, I think I'll go first. I'm not asking about your salary, but I wanted to ask, how did you go about negotiating your salary?
How do I go about it?
Yeah, negotiating salary with the...
Okay, she was telling me a number, and she telling me all the rationale behind it. She was saying, they open the door, okay, let me close it. Okay. She gave me like 4 or 5 rationale behind it. Like whatever experience I have, I'm still a junior. And UX design, you get paid slightly higher than the UI designer. And the market base and everything. Then I told her I'm gonna think about it. Then I go back home. Then a day later, I drop her an email and write down my rationale about how I should be paid higher and my expectation. Then a day later, she dropped me a few emails and saying like, okay, I know that, so hey, we meet up again and talk about it in person. Then we decided to meet up and we talked about. I shown her my interior design portfolio, and I persuade her to give me the salary that I want. Then she said she's gonna think about it, and after that night, she messaged me and said, "Okay, hey, let's just work with me. I'm okay with the salary that you asked for."
Awesome.
So I
Congratulations.
think if you want, thank you. If you want to negotiate, you must really have something to base on. So
Yeah.
you just
Definitely.
can't like I deserve that much. Just give it to me because I'm pretty.
Yeah, that's an awesome answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I was lucky because I had my portfolio for interior design ready, so I can convince her that
Yeah. Awesome answer. Thank you.
Okay.
So I know there's a couple of people here who have engineering or coding background who are making transitions into UX. What would you say about that? Like how would you pitch that to a prospective employer? Yeah, no? Anybody? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, so I feel it's difficult to put my experience as an engineer to my portfolio, because if I add them, maybe they want to hire me as an engineer.
No.
Well, I mean, here's the interesting thing about jobs. I mean, first of all, it's hard to get your first job, true, in any different field. It's difficult to get your first opportunity. But the interesting thing about jobs is you can always say no. And for you to show your experience as an engineer along with your UX makes you actually look more powerful, because you could say, I can talk to engineers, I speak that language. Then if they say, okay, we want to hire you as an engineer, you can say, no, I'm really interested in becoming a UX person. So if you want my skill set, this is the kind of job I need to have. So I do understand what you're saying, but you don't have to worry about, just because someone offers you a job doesn't mean you have to take it. I mean, take a look at Kim. Kim was able to, in a lot of ways, if you sort of play hard to get, if that expression makes sense to you, you become more valuable. Like one of the things I've noticed in my career is if I charge a little money for my work, people think the work isn't as good as if I charge a lot of money for my work. There's this very strange psychology that occurs. So if someone's offering you a job and you say, I don't know, they're going to come at you possibly a little bit stronger. So those kind of things can happen as well. So I wouldn't keep your, like I believe, Riri, you have, is it 5 years as an engineer? Is it 4 years? What is it? You have quite a bit of experience as an engineer.
4 years?
4 years, yeah. So you definitely have to include that into your story. I wouldn't worry that someone's going to only offer you an engineering job, because your intention is now to become a UX designer. So that's what you're going to do. I don't know if anyone else
Can I share my experience as an engineer?
Absolutely.
I got a 16 years experience on the engineer. Well, 16 years, yeah, experience on the engineer. But I just share my thought. Actually, I told Laurence before as well. Laurence did ask me where should I go as well. And yeah, I'm quite comfortable with my engineering company. And the reason why I involve on the UX design is basically is to bring something to the engineering world or oil and gas world. I mean, I feel that as an engineer, right? Actually, if you want to change your engineer job to a UX designer job, it should be work as well, because you have 4 year experience in the engineering. There are so many kind of a project management skills that you learn from your engineering, which I believe so. From, say, for example, from a conceptual design, detail design, until you build a product. That sort of experience actually help you in UX design. Basically, you can sell it to your future employer by saying that you got a very solid engineering experience from a conceptual and basically UX also part of helping you in your career as well, put in this way, to build a new product. I think you have to find a way, but I think that your 4 years experience in engineering, I'm sure that will help you in UX design if you want to change your career. That's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because I think engineering, we went through all the conceptual design, fit design, and then come to the end product. Actually, it's same to the UX design. It's just the I think so, actually. Because like I work with a Susanne, sometimes I'm a bit general, but she is quite right, actually. We have to specific. It's just like you are process engineer, I'm a building engineer. I have to be a specific what sort of a building or what sort of a things that we want to build. So it's for me it's a different language, but the process itself I think is quite similar. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think I mean just a confidence. How do you use your experience? Forget about all those technical. How do you transfer it to the UX design?
Yeah, and also put yourself on the employer's side, the person who is thinking about hiring you, and just imagine what they're thinking. So I've been on that side of the table quite a bit. So if I'm across from you and you're trying to be a UX designer and you tell me you have 4 years of coding experience, I'm not going to think of that as a negative. I'm going to think of that as an extreme positive. Not only could I at some point rely on you to communicate with my tech team, but in a crunch, you could even do some code. Let's say we had a huge deadline or something, and everybody was working hard. You could fill in the gap and become more useful. So having that experience.
I learned this one when I was in Malaysia, when I left a construction company to UK. Actually, my previous employer, he is quite happy that I moved to other company. The main reason is what they told me is a CEO. Actually, they told me is basically, yeah, I'm happy you to move it to other industry because I want you to learn more from other side of the world and bring back something. If in future I want to come back to their industry, put in this way.
Yeah. All right.
So
let's
I think the industry transfer is possible.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on. Are there any other thoughts that anybody has? Questions, things they want to talk about, topics? Specifically
can you
around.
Hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, Susanne.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. I just want to say that don't underestimate all the soft skills as well. It doesn't matter which industry you come from, but the soft skill I think nowadays also very valuable. For example, as an engineer, I'm sure you have to liaise with different stakeholders or bring together different teams. So I think I would definitely highlight this as well.
Yeah, I agree with Susanne.
Yeah.
Actually, in the job prep course, they have this section where they help you write your elevator pitch that help you incorporate your previous skills from your previous job into your current UX. I mean, try to sell yourself as a past job plus UX designer.
Yeah.
So the job prep is really good. Yeah. You should all take it since it's free anyway.
Definitely. So, other thoughts? Are we running out of questions here? Running out of comments? Running out of gas? Anybody?
Yeah. It was a bit unclear before, but when Kim was talking about her website, but the animation software that you used, was it called Printable? Did you say?
Yeah, it's called Printable.
Okay.
But even now, Sketch has a built-in function for animation as well. It just different movement of screen, and you just record it. That's the basic idea.
If you guys were to, one of the things that I want to emphasize just a little bit here is that you guys can do a lot of the research and get used to doing this research to figure out how to do these different things. But for example, if you want to make simple animations like Kim has done in her site, which we can all see the benefit, right? I mean, it's just amazing to see it move. It almost, as I was saying before, Kim's site on the marketing page of her app makes what I'm calling the marketing page, makes the app look like it's real. So imagine that you're going in for a job interview, and the person's probably going to say to you, did you actually make this app? Did any of the people ask you if you made that app for real? Yeah, of course, because it looks like you actually made the app, and you can say no, but just think how impressive that is, because you've actually fooled them into thinking you actually built that app. So my point was, though, if you start to do research on simple Google search, I mean, you guys, it's amazing the power of Google, and I know that just ages me because I came up in a time when you had to go to the library to do research. But if you just Google things like how to make an animated GIF, GIF, or how to make an animated PNG, there's lots of ways to do it. And some of them are completely online. Like there are tools online, just web pages, you drop images into it, you generate an animation, you save it out, and then you can use that as an asset in your website. So just my point, though, is start getting used to just Googling these questions, because all of the answers are out there. Kim?
I have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 stories. First one is related to the GIF animation that I made. When I started, I did what we did, showcase all the different screens, Then I find it's like, it doesn't tell a story. It's not interactive enough. So I go to Dribble. I see how people, I saw how people present their work with the animation. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how to make it. So what I did was I just, spamming people. I just typed in the comments, how do you make it? What does it call? Yeah. I don't even know the iPhone thing was called a showcase. I didn't know that it's called iPhone showcase or iPhone mockup.
Yeah.
I just Google like iPhone PNG or phone PNG, because I know PNG is like a transparent background file. Then it started to come up with showcase and background. Then I said, so that's a keyword. It's showcase and yeah. Then I started to get a few answers from people. They said, I use Photoshop. Some say I use Principle. Then so I know those are the software. So I started to Google like how to create animation using Photoshop, blah blah blah. Then it started to come up.
Yeah.
So that's one. And YouTube has a lot of tutorial videos.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from YouTube as well. And the second story is about my website. I didn't got it the first time. I tried 3 times. First, I started with WordPress.com, because everyone said, all designers said I made my website using WordPress. So I started with WordPress.com. After a while, I couldn't get the layout that I wanted. I felt it's very restricted. Then I did my research. I realized, there's actually 2 types of WordPress. One is WordPress.com and one is WordPress.org. They are 2 different things. And all the designers use WordPress.org. What the hell? But I was lucky because I'm still in the, the refund period. So I asked them to refund me, and I tried WordPress.org, which is very troublesome to me because I have to purchase my own domain. I have to, host it online, everything. And I have to figure out a way to build the website as well. Then I just drop it and wait a few days for my domain to be available back to purchase. Then I go with Wix. The thing with Wix is it lets you build the website first before you have to commit to anything, any package. So I start building my website first while waiting for the domain to be available to purchase. And I find it's quite flexible because it's all drag and drop. I mean, it still take me a few tweaks, but I'm able to make something that I visualize in my head. Then I make a purchase. And yeah, so I'm here
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
I didn't got it the first time though.
Actually, I think Wix is well. I mean, that is my personal experience as well. I tried WordPress many years ago, and recently, well, I show Laurence as well. Actually, I use Wix actually .com. Actually, it allow you to drag and drop, and also if you go into the detail, actually, it allows you to write the code as well.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they update you. I think periodly they will update you
Yes.
what sort of feature that will be added into your website as well. I think it's for junior. I think it's quite okay.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I recently created a website, and Wix is just awesome. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
awesome. That the amount of micro animations you could do with it as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know, Bambang, maybe next group meeting you can present your portfolio site that you're working on, just as part
But
of it.
Kim's
that's
one's
good,
is
actually.
way better than mine. I can't even compare it
Yeah,
to
but
Kim's.
you've got 2 weeks to, at least 2 weeks to get
Yeah.
yours
Yeah.
up to speed.
Yeah.
You know,
Pressure's on.
that's the other thing. You know,
Pressure's on, yeah.
these websites are things we're going to work on for a long time. So, you know, one thing that I want to stress is once you get a job, and I know, Kim, you're like basking in the glory of getting job offers here, and it's great. But remember to keep track of the work projects that you do and always create work samples. Don't ever stop documenting the work you're doing. It's one thing that I just can't under stress, that even though you're working, continue to build your own personal story and document the work that you're doing, and save as much of, you know, different iterations of it as you can. Save, you know, like for example, there was a period in time when Flash was a huge application that everything was running on. So today it's more difficult to get Flash to play, particularly in mobile. So you never know what's going to happen to formats. So you want to save formats that you can show into the future. So just, you know, it's early in our careers to be thinking about this, but I want to stress that as you get your first job, don't just stop. I mean, it's always going to be part of the picture for you to collect your work and be able to present your work and the stuff that you've done.
Since you're talking here, Laurence, actually, what's the best way for the documentation?
I'm not sure there is a best way. I wish there were magic bullet answers to all these questions, but there is no best way. The best way for you to show interactive would be to actually just have a link going to the piece itself, because then it's a live piece. However, if we think about that idea of the inverted pyramid, you want to be able to get across very quickly to somebody, here's a project I did. And you also want them to be able to actually dive in and look at it deeply, possibly look at the real thing. So nothing beats looking at the real thing unless someone doesn't have the time to look at the real thing, at which point you have to do some sort of abbreviated version. And it's very difficult actually to demonstrate UX and UI work to other people, because it's not just the visual, it's the three-dimensionality of it, it's the workflows through. So one way that I've done it is with video, where I actually just take video of a site being used if the site isn't accessible. Okay?
Well, my point on the documentation is basically is see for example, you work with a client, right? You run through a process from the beginning to the end itself. How do you document that process and then keep it as a record for future use?
Yeah.
I didn't quite get the question. So how do you...
All right, okay. What I try to say is basically documentation, the process. Basically, how do you keep all your process or your findings in a document or in a paper that will be easy for future use or future reference?
That's a great question, and it's really, really hard. So one way to try and imagine what the problem is you've got, and I'm just going to use just this fake visual, but you've got, say, this much work. You've got stacks of paper that amount to this much work in terms of research and brainstorming and sketching and prototyping and wireframing. And the question is, how do you present that to people? So you've got all of that documentation, all of the work that went into you coming up with this final execution, this solution. It's really, really a hard thing to show because nobody's going to want to read through a 100-page wireframe deck. Nobody's going to want to read through a 100-page, specifications document. So,
well, my purposes is more on for future use. Say, for example, redevelopment or redesign a certain thing. Normally, we will documentation for future use, don't we?
When you say future use, you mean to present as a work sample, correct?
No, actually, it's a redevelopment, more on redevelopment process.
Oh, I think so in that
yeah,
instance,
my point is basically you build a documentation up to a stage, but after 5 years or 10 years, because of a product change or your problem statement change, basically you want to use it as your reference for another another development. That's why I say redevelopment.
Well, I'm not sure I quite understand your question, but I think I get it. I reuse documentation all of the time. So in other words, I have formats that I use for presentations. I have formats that I use for developing different sort of journey mapping or structure charting. I have formats that I use for developing wireframing.
Does it is the same format that you apply to all the client or different format?
I use similar formats depending upon what it is I'm doing. Like I don't reinvent the wheel every time I make a wireframe deck. I don't, I can start with components from one wireframe deck to move to another wireframe deck.
So you got those a template of a document?
Well, sure. I mean, it becomes a template of a document, but it's all customized work, though, right? I mean, each different client has different needs, so it's not like you just reuse something.
Yeah, but the template it should be still the same. Am I right?
Pretty right. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to reinvent. You don't have to start from scratch every time you do a project.
Okay. Do you mind to share your templates?
I don't. I have shared with you guys individually in our sessions. I've shown you the types of work that I've done. Lee, if we're ever looking at something, boy, I don't know. There's somebody making a lot of noise back there. If you ever see a document that you want to use of mine, just ask me, and I'll let you use it if it's something I can give you. I want to reemphasize, Lee, that there's no magic bullet to the work that we do, right? It really does amount to focus and hard work, right? It's not like there's some sort of magic that makes it easier for somebody to do it because they have, some sort of document or key. It's all about hard work and spending the time doing it. As we're all kind of learning in this course, right? The amount of time we have to spend to make this stuff. All right, there's been a couple of you who've been really quiet, so I assume, not pointing at you, David, but you, David. I'm assuming.
Well, I have a question for Kim. I was waiting. So Kim, you don't have any UX design experience, right? In the interview, did they ask any questions about that at all? And how did you respond?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Kim, you don't have any UX design experience, right?
No.
In the interviews, did they bring up any questions about that? And how did you respond?
No, they completely aware that I'm a junior in UX design. I made that clear first. That I just graduated from Career Foundry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
the project from Career Foundry is the only UX piece that I have to showcase.
Okay.
So I didn't, yeah, there's no question about that.
Well, so the follow-up, though, I think, David, where you're heading, if I can just add, so do you think it's an issue or not? So, we're all just junior UX designers and we're going in to get our first job and we have no experience. So maybe a way to ask this question is, how do you handle that? How do you deal with that? How do you get your first UX job if you have no experience?
Actually, my question, well, actually not my question. Actually, I read a HBR, I think in a Harvard Business Review. Actually, on one of article, I may find that I can try to find that article. Actually, in this current or century, actually, experience not really important anymore. I think skill set is far more important than your experience. If you got a very good skill set that can be used for a company, experience not more an issue. That what I read from one of the article actually is, I think it's quite good. If you can perform or then you can present your ideas or your skill set to your future company, I think that is far more important than your experience. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and I would actually agree with that to a large degree. And that is what a good employer is looking for is not have you done it, but can you do it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just to branch off from that, like, would you say to, I guess, like us, like who haven't gotten their first UX job yet, that we shouldn't be afraid of applying for UX jobs that ask for more experience than we actually do have?
I would say that be bold in life and do those things. It's going to depend on the competition. So in other words, as an employer, if I have 5 choices or 1 choice, that will influence what I do. So if you're the only candidate for a job that's above your skill set, there's a chance you'll get it. If you're the best candidate out of 3, there's a really good chance you'll get it. Even if somebody, so if you went in and you were smarter and better than somebody who had 2 years experience, a smart employer would recognize your potential and give the job to you.
Okay.
I can't tell for UX design, but what I did for my interior design life, I always apply for companies that I like. I don't care whether they are hiring or not, or they're looking for senior, junior, whatever. I don't care. I just like their company, I apply for it. And sometimes I go to this extent where I made a small portfolio of myself, the hard copies, and I just go to their office and put it, then give it to them. Like, hey, take a look, and wait for their reply. So I don't think if they're really interested in you and you'll be able to bring your potential and you are a good value and you can bring value to their company, why not, right?
Right, exactly.
Kim,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, did they reply to your resume, like when you give in your work, like to show them or your resume to them? Did they reply?
For my interior design work? Yes, I did.
Were you talking about your interior design or for your UX?
Oh, I was telling about my previous job. For UX,
okay.
I didn't actively looking for job because I already got one, so I didn't actively looking for one. But it should be similar, Yeah. Job is job. Yeah.
Tracy, you've been awfully quiet.
Something. Yeah. It sounds like you all study UX. It's only me study UI, isn't it?
Yeah, you're currently the only UI student in this group. So this group consists of 2 tutors and only Susanne is here. Thania couldn't make it tonight. And then there's another 7 students and everybody's at a different place in the coursework and the studies. So you're the only UI specific student.
Okay.
And that seems like that would be a whole nother topic, like what's the difference between UX and UI and why do some people think it's the same thing? But
Yeah, because like I heard like if you don't have design background, and you better probably study UX instead of UI. Because I don't have any design background. I just like all the software myself, and I like design myself. I feel like it probably is a little bit harder for me to find a job and then to study UX. Isn't it?
any thoughts? Anybody?
Wait, sorry, what? Why would it be hard for you to find a job?
Yeah, because like for UX designer, the probably about the user behavior, and you do lots of research, and you don't need to know like lots of design techniques. But for UI designer, is more specific. You have to good at like design base. You know what I mean? So I just wondering like maybe it's hard for me to find a job like this.
Tracy, what was your previous job?
It's a fashion buyer. I was a fashion buyer before. Yes.
I would heavily sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I would disagree like heaps because I've been reading a lot and about like UI designers in general. But it's just like you guys are pretty much doing the finished product of how to make it look good. So it's pretty much after the UX. So everyone does the UX, so does the process of how to make it as simple as possible, make the functionalities work. But UI design is what makes it look good, what makes it appealing to the users, because the users are the ones that are going to be looking at it and they'll be like, wow, this is nice, or this is just the average app type thing.
Well, just to add to what you're saying, Bambang, I can't thank UI designers enough for how many times they've saved me by catching a way to improve my UX. So UX doesn't actually stop in good processes, in good agile iterative processes. It doesn't stop at the handoff to the design team. Design teams who are prepared to evaluate UX and bring comments back to the table and say, hey guys, shouldn't we do it this way? That's saved a lot of moments for me in my career. The other thing.
Hey Laurence, can you give us an example of how UI designers helped out UX?
Oh, just simply by a UI designer who is a UX thinker. So in other words, just a UI designer who has UX thinking process has noticed issues with UX and said, hey, shouldn't we do it this way? It happens all the time. So my point is that we're not dealing with sort of a hard stop waterfall process where UX hands off to UI and UI develops and hands off to code. That's a really silly way to develop. We're trying to encourage agile development, which means a constant sort of evaluation process and reiteration. That should be occurring in a healthy agile process. So a UI designer being aware of UX is really, really important. And you can become aware of UX, Tracy, in many ways. You can become aware of UX simply by using the web, which we all do every day, right? So use yourself as your own best teacher and test subject. When you find yourself being frustrated with an experience, it's probably because there's some bad UX in there, right? And make note of it and try and imagine how it would be better. My other point, though, about what you're saying, I think hopefully a lot of the conversation that's happened here tonight, which is good employers are looking for potential, looking for skill set, so you can present yourself as able to fill the role of the job that they're trying to find a person for. And the other part of this is the importance of the portfolio, which is what got us here together in the first place, was to really kind of have an open discussion about the portfolios, how to make them, and the importance of them. So, I don't want to, I've never advocated suggesting you can do something you can't do. That's a recipe for disaster. But there is a strong part of what we're doing in presenting ourselves and telling our stories that is pushing ourselves farther than we might be capable. So don't limit yourself by saying, oh, I've never done that, I can't do that. present yourself in the best light, present yourself as being very capable and willing to learn, which is again ties back to what I'm saying about Google, you guys. Don't stop Googling answers to your questions. Anybody can make a GIF animation. A 5-year-old can make a GIF animation, I guarantee it. There are many applications that can make GIF animations. Start to use the tools in front of you and continuously learn. If there's one thing we know, software is never going to stop changing. And the techniques for presenting on the web is never going to stop evolving. So you need to start to keep up with it by, learning software constantly. The more you know, the more valuable you will be to an employer, to a prospective employer or an existing employer. Hence, the more valuable you'll be to yourself. So continue to learn. By getting into UX and UI or any part of technology, you're committing yourself to an ongoing career of learning and improving and expanding your capabilities. And you will grow expertise over time, and things will become easier for you. But right now, it's going to take a lot of hard work to get yourself going, to get the momentum behind you. But I hope, Tracy, what you are partially hearing is, we need to develop a great story for you and a great portfolio, and you need to tie in your fashion buying skill set, which might be, I'm a manager of people, or I did this, or I did that. I'm not exactly sure yet with you, but we need to tie that in to your now UI design career and build that story and make yourself, quote, marketable. So your website for UI design and our websites for UX design, basically they are a statement within themselves. So as a prospective employer coming to any one of our initial websites, the first impression I get from it is going to really color the way I imagine you as an employee for me. I'm going to want those details to be perfect. I'm not going to want to see, obvious flaws in your presentation. It's going to give me the impression, just like Kim's portfolio, by making her application look real, she scored so many points in an interview process. People looked at it and go, wow, did she develop an application? That alone is worth almost everything in the job interview, because they then wonder, and it makes you look that much more professional, that much more ready for the marketplace. So Tracy, I hope you understand that, really the goal here is to develop your story and your portfolio as a UI designer. So you'll have an opportunity in the course to do a project. You'll have an opportunity to do another project in the specialization course. You'll begin to sort of imagine your portfolio. And as Kim pointed out, which I actually, sorry to say, wasn't aware of, there's a job preparation course that you can take, which will help you build the portfolio as well. But I'll work with you on that as well, the sort of storytelling that a portfolio needs to be, and what the expectation. Part of what I like about this conversation, and I want to continue, is to demystify the expectation of the employer, so you guys are confident when you go into these meetings. Because basically all of you can do this stuff. I mean, I'm not going to say what I said about a GIF animation. A 5-year-old can't be a UI designer or a UX designer, but you guys can. And it's something you can learn, and you can get into the marketplace and continue to grow your skill over time. So, gosh, I hope that made sense and wasn't just
Yeah, it does. The final question is, because I saw like a, sorry, how to pronounce your name? Tini?
Just call me Kim. Yeah.
Hi. I saw T have the really beautiful portfolio, and she designed all the logos, everything by herself. And that's because you have the design background. I was wondering, is it anybody else have the same skills to polish the portfolio for the UX course? Or because it seems like the UX course is advanced than the UI course, because you combine the design and you also have other stuffs.
For me, I created the logo using Sketch, and I only learned Sketch while I started UX. Just to be clear. It didn't come with my interior design skill set. Yeah, I use it using Sketch, and I only know about Sketch in UX Immersion.
Yeah, but Tracy, just to let you know, like in the UX Immersion course, they didn't tell you how to use Sketch. It's pretty much
Yeah,
you
it
learn it on
didn't
your
tell
own.
you.
So they give you the options of what's available. So there's Adobe XD, there's Sketch, there's other prototyping tools, but they don't tell you how to use. There's no tutorials of how to use Sketch, for example. For example, like I didn't use Sketch, I used Adobe XD, but I had to learn that on my own during my own time.
Yeah.
So there's no tutorials during the UX Immersion course of how to use those tools. Just something you have to do it yourself.
I think it's all about self-study and initiative. Yeah.
Yeah. But you learn a lot.
Yeah.
Once you get the hang of it and start experimenting, you learn heaps. It's awesome
Yeah,
what you can do once
engineer.
you
I
learn how to
never
use.
used all those tools before. I learned it from scratch. I think so. Everything's from scratch. A lot of things. I think some tools introduced by Susanne or some introduced by Laurence. Everything is new to me.
To give a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's I'm a mature now. I have a lots of stuff. I just feel like a time. I don't have time.
Yeah.
It makes me crazy.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. That is a problem. The more time you can spend practicing, the better you will get, like anything else. So I don't know what the answer to that is. Stay up all night? No.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Oh my God. Great, yeah.
Any thoughts on how to deal with this idea of the time commitment? I mean, what do you do?
Sacrifice.
Yeah, sacrifice.
Sacrifice, yeah. You know, there's
Like
the idea of, can we do things more efficiently?
Time management.
Yeah, time
Definitely.
management. Yeah. All right, you guys, we've been going at this now for a while. I hope this has been successful. I want to continue this. I'll set something up for, should I say, 3 weeks, or 2 weeks.
I'm fine with 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. All right, please, guys, next time let's commit to being in as good a connection spots we can with as quiet a background as we can, because it's a little bit harder with this many people to hear each other. All right, so I'm going to go through the list, and I'm going to call your name, and I'm going to say closing thoughts, and this is going to be random. Bambang, closing thoughts.
Sorry?
Closing thoughts.
What do you mean? What do I have to talk? As in, just.
All right, next, David. Closing thoughts.
This was really good and helpful, I think. I think, yes, if you have any troubles or anything, just keep on working at whatever you're doing. The mentors are very helpful. Use YouTube, definitely.
Riri, closing thoughts.
So I can share my interview experience.
Oh, yeah.
Because I already had some interviews, but I still didn't get job, but maybe I can share my experience.
Okay, next time, okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right. Lee, closing thoughts.
Well, I appreciate, to be honest, I appreciate the group chat. Actually, I learned a lot from you guys, actually. Because I'm not working in the IT world, and then, but it gave me a lot of a thought than how the user works. And normally I just assign to the project and then finish a product. I think is quite different, actually.
Cool.
But it's a great, actually.
Cool. Tracy, closing thoughts.
Yeah, I just feel like I need time management. And I really appreciate, like, for my mentor and the tutor, I know you guys help me a lot because I extend my course of about 2 weeks. I just moved from Ireland to Australia. So I have lots of visa stuffs and a moving house, a lot of things.
Yeah.
When you based in Australia?
Yeah, I appreciate about your patience, and I feel like it's really helpful, you guys. Because every time when I ask for help, you're there. So that's wonderful.
Cool.
Thanks.
Beverley, closing thoughts.
Oh, yeah, she was complaining a lot before she picked her up. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much the closest to the starting point out of everyone. So I think what everyone shared was very enlightening. And I kind of know what I'm looking ahead to as well.
Cool. Susanne, closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts.
Closing
No, I'm
thoughts.
just so happy to see my students evolve and be there on the journey. And I would say, portfolio-wise, you guys all have those interesting backgrounds and personalities. So don't shy away to add it to your portfolio. Let it come out.
Yeah. And Kim, the presenter,
Hi.
hostess, closing thoughts.
Okay. So sorry for the noise today. I promise you will be the last time because my renovation project will be finished in the next 2 days. I'm gonna start work next Monday, so I believe that by in our 2 weeks meeting, I can share with you about my working experience. Because the boss already told me there's like 4 or 5 UX projects ongoing at the same time, so we have to get used to working in 5 UX projects at the same time, not one.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share with you about that, how it will be going. Yeah.
Very cool.
That'd be
Very
awesome.
cool. Yeah. All right. So this is great, guys. I'm gonna call it a night here. I think this is working out well. I think we're just going to get better at this, but I think sharing this real world experience and giving each other support as we enter the job markets is going to be really great. I'm real excited for it. So thanks for showing up, and see you in this big group in a couple weeks.